Do you love me?
Love. In love?
Pause for a breath. Picture two strangers at a crowded train platform, each lost in the day's swirl of errands and notifications. Rain spots glimmer on the concrete. A busker's violin wavers above the commuter murmur. Their eyes lock. Nothing theatrical happens. No orchestral swell. Yet both feel the brief sensation that something has shifted. That single glance is the seed from which love stories spiral, and it is also the entry point for our exploration. We often describe this first surge with phrases like butterflies, electricity, or my heart skipped. Neuroscientists would point to a cocktail of dopamine, phenethylamine, and norepinephrine surging through reward circuits. These chemicals speed the pulse and sharpen attention so the beloved seems etched in high definition while the rest of the world blurs. Biology, however, is only the ignition switch. The spark arcs across a lifetime of memories, attachments, and cultural scripts that instantly frame the stranger as familiar or even fated. Psychologist John Bowlby argued that early caretaker bonds prime us to recognize emotional safety. When the warm gaze of a partner resembles the soothing presence of a parent, our nervous system flags the encounter as home. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung offered a complementary view: that new romantic fascination is coloured by projected aspects of ourselves we have not yet owned. Where Bowlby focuses on comfort, Jung highlights curiosity toward our unrealised potential. Together they explain why the same stranger can look ordinary to 99 people and utterly magnetic to one. Attraction is personal myth-meeting bodily chemistry. Culture pours its own accelerant. A Bollywood film might choreograph monsoon rain and spinning umbrellas around our couple, imprinting a script that equates true love with dramatic gesture. A quiet Scandinavian novel might teach another viewer that connection reveals itself in shared silence over coffee. When real life presents a scene echoing our favourite narrative, adrenaline spikes as if we have stepped onto a set designed for us. Anthropologists call this phenomenon mythic resonance, a moment when external reality aligns with an internal story, often without our conscious awareness. Yet amid this swirl of hormones and symbols, something more private unfolds. Attraction disturbs the neat boundaries of the self. Philosopher Simone de Beauvoir suggested that to desire is to feel one's own incompleteness. In the shimmer of another person we glimpse traits we either lack or repress in ourselves. The extrovert admires introverted calm. The dreamer falls for practical steadiness. The guarded soul feels drawn to open laughter. This gravitational pull is not random. It is the psyche seeking wholeness through mirrored difference. The risk, of course, is mistaking the mirror for the person. During early fascination, we fill gaps with projection, as if painting missing puzzle pieces. That is why lovers can feel they have known each other forever after one night, only to confront later that many discoveries are yet to come. Discerning between projection and genuine recognition is the first discipline of love, and it demands patience-y virtue we will revisit in later sections. Modern dating technology intensifies these dynamics. Swiping through profiles functions like rapid-fire mythic resonance, each photo a potential spark site. Algorithms learn our quick choices and present more of the same, narrowing possibilities until matches mirror our preferences so closely that genuine difference, the very friction that teaches us, rarely surfaces. Psychologists warn that endless choice does not guarantee deeper connection. Rather, it can foster perpetual sampling while commitment feels risky. The paradox is stark. Platforms promise efficiency, yet meaningful intimacy still requires slow attention. Still, there is undeniable magic when two people lean toward each other in that first charged interval. Their pupils dilate in synchrony, heart rates in train, and conversation feels lighter than air. To dismiss this as mere biochemistry is to miss its existential power. Philosopher Martin Buber called such encounters I-thou moments, where the presence of another awakens our own aliveness. In that brief window, the world appears more vivid because it is reflected through an unfamiliar consciousness that somehow harmonies with our own. From here, the journey could unfold as lifelong partnership, brief affair, or a lingering memory never acted upon. Yet every unfolding shares a common root, the initial collision of bodies, histories, and narratives that invites us to step beyond solitary identity. To meet that invitation wisely, we must ask gentle questions. What do I see in this person that I long to claim in myself? What story am I casting them into? What parts of me awaken or retreat in their presence? These inquiries slow the spark just enough to light a candle rather than a wildfire. Long before cinema and streaming services, humanity rehearsed love through fireside tales and epic poems. The Greek myth of Orpheus walking into the underworld for his bride taught listeners that devotion braves the darkest paths yet, is fragile when trust falters. In China, the legend of the red thread binding destined partners whispered that invisible forces steer hearts across mountains and dynasties. Such stories served as emotional blueprints. They offered listeners a sense that desire contains cosmic purpose, and that union is both gift and trial. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where courtly love lyricists praised impossible yearning. A knight admired a noble woman from afar, promising feats of valor to earn a single smile. That template still lingers in popular culture, equating authentic love with grand pursuit and self-sacrifice. The danger is that valuing chase over commitment can glamorize distance and turbulence while overlooking quiet reliability. Every culture carries a dominant script. In many Western nations, the soulmate ideal reigns. We learn to interpret ease and instant chemistry as proof of fate. Relationship researcher Benjamin Carney warns that this narrative can breed disillusionment when inevitable friction arises. Couples may mistakenly think conflict signals the wrong choice rather than an invitation to mature. Contrast this with certain arranged marriage traditions where compatibility is evaluated through family values and long-term logistics. Love is expected to grow like a sapling rooted after planting rather than strike like lightning. Studies from the Indian Council of Medical Research suggest arranged couples often report satisfaction comparable to love matches by year 10, because shared expectations foster gradual intimacy. Modern media stitches diverse motifs into a patchwork. Hollywood romantic comedies present witty banter climaxing in airport chases. K-drama series stretch tension over 16 episodes, punctuated by umbrella scenes and accidental hand brushes. Latin telenovelas hurl lovers through betrayal, amnesia, and redemption, teaching that passion survives high drama. Consuming these genres plants subconscious images that steer first dates and big decisions. Social platforms amplify the spectacle. Engagement photos under cherry blossoms invite likes and heart emojis. Algorithm-fed timelines showcase highlight reels and proposal flash mobs, leaving viewers to equate love with photogenic milestones. Psychologist Sherry Turkle warns that constant comparison chips away at contentment by suggesting everyone else enjoys frictionless romance. The truth is that cropped frames hide the disagreements over laundry and finances. Technology also writes new scripts. Dating apps present a gamified market. Profiles read like product labels, listing height hobbies, star signs. Swipes reward quick judgments. Anthropologist Helen Fisher notes that this abundance can trigger the paradox of choice, where too many options reduce commitment to any one path. Saying yes becomes harder when another possibility is one swipe away. Yet digital tools can expand horizons. Queer communities historically marginalized in local contexts now find love through online niches. Cross-cultural couples meet in language exchange forums and build hybrid traditions. The key is conscious authorship of the story, rather than passive consumption of algorithms. Individuals can audit internal scripts by reflecting on influential media. Ask what scene first shaped my belief about perfect love. Which childhood fairy tale or song defined romance for me? Noticing these imprints reveals whether they serve or sabotage present connections. Some couples craft shared narratives deliberately. They write mission statements for their relationship, naming values such as curiosity, equity, or adventure. Others create annual vision boards, combining travel dreams and learning goals. By choosing narrative together, they replace inherited myths with co-authored purpose. Cultural scripts also dictate acceptable tempo. In many urban centres, moving in together within months of matching on apps is common. In conservative rural regions, courtship might involve chaperoned gatherings and family meetings. Conflict arises when partners operate from different timelines. Recognizing that pacing often mirrors community norms allows negotiation rather than judgment. Even within a single relationship, scripts can shift across life stages. The whirlwind energy of early 20s may seed to stability seeking in 30s and legacy building in later decades. Couples benefit from periodic narrative check-ins, asking, how has our story evolved and does it still fit who we are now? Finally, there is the script of solitude. Western culture sometimes pathologizes singlehood, implying incompleteness. Yet philosopher Alain de Botton posits that learning to be content alone is foundational. It prevents desperation that mistakes any spark for destiny. Healthy partnership is chosen not to escape emptiness, but to share fullness. By untangling these woven tales, we gain agency. We realize that love is not one universal screenplay, but many drafts awaiting edits. When two people discard outdated stereotypes, they free themselves to write a story that honors both tradition and individuality. That act of authorship sets the stage for the psychological realities we explore next, where attachment patterns and projection meet everyday decisions about closeness and autonomy. Love enters quieter waters after the spectacular swirl of stories meets real bodies and daily calendars. Here, the unseen currents of attachment guide how two people negotiate closeness and distance. John Bowlby described attachment style as a working model, an internal map that predicts whether comfort is available when we reach out. That map hides below language, yet it steers whether we lean in or pull back when intimacy deepens. A securely attached partner carries the expectation that emotional requests will be met with warmth. When a work deadline looms, they can say, "I feel stressed, can we talk?" and trust that the beloved will respond. This confidence is a self-fulfilling prophecy, inviting positive feedback loops. Their calm request receives calm support, reinforcing the belief that connection is safe. Anxious attachment tells a different story. Early experiences of inconsistent care teach that love might vanish without warning. As adults, these lovers often amplify signals when they sense distance. A delayed text triggers racing thoughts. Did I upset them? Are they losing interest? They may send multiple follow-up messages or interpret neutral silence as rejection. The strategy aims to re-establish contact, yet can flood the relationship with urgency. Avoidant styles develop when caregivers were emotionally distant or overwhelmed. To protect the system, the child learns that self-reliance is safer than yearning. Grown avoidant partners value autonomy to the point where acts of closeness can feel like trespass. They might disappear into work projects after a romantic weekend or shrug off compliments that make them feel exposed. The protective shield prevents feeling controlled, but it also limits vulnerability. Most people are not pure types. We slide along a spectrum based on context, mental health, and the behavior of the partner. Stressful life events can tilt a secure person towards anxiety, just as a string of patient responses can soften avoidant habits. Attachment is plastic, not fate. Projection now re-enters the scene. During early fascination, we overlay hopes onto the beloved. Later, we may project fears, An anxious partner might project impending abandonment onto small scheduling changes. An avoidant partner might project engulfment onto genuine bids for connection. Both projections create self-confirming loops, unless questioned. Couples therapy often begins by helping each person translate behaviors under attachment lens. When an anxious lover says, "You never listen to me," an exercise invites them to pass the need beneath the protest. "Perhaps I feel unimportant when you are on your phone." The avoidant partner learns to hear the need rather than the accusation. This micro-skill sets off a cascade of de-escalation. Research by Sue Johnson, founder of Emotionally Focused Therapy, shows that reframing conflict as a cycle rather than a character flaw increases empathy. Partners fight the pattern together instead of blaming one another. They name the dance. You pursue when anxious. I withdraw when pressured. And design exit ramps such as taking a shared breath, naming the trigger, or scheduling a check-in after cooling down. Another vital current is differentiation, the ability to maintain a distinct sense of self while staying emotionally connected. Psychiatrist David Schnarch likens differentiation to holding onto your seat on a roller coaster. You feel the rush, but do not fly off. Highly differentiated partners can tolerate disagreement without panic, opening the door for growth rather than collapse. Practices that strengthen differentiation include solo hobbies, silent meditation, and taking responsibility for personal moods. When each partner arrives at the relationship as a whole person, intimacy becomes a choice rather than a rescue mission. The paradox is clear: independence nurtures interdependence. Yet differentiation is not isolation. The human nervous system is wired for co-regulation. Research from the University of North Carolina shows that holding a loved one's hand during threat reduces activation in brain regions linked to fear. Touch, eye contact, and synced breathing are biological bridges calming the body so that rational dialogue can return. Mindfulness offers another bridge. Couples who meditate together report increased attunement and reduced reactivity. A simple practice is shared breathing for 3 minutes before difficult conversations. By focusing on inhale and exhale, both partners drop from the narrative brain into present sensation, making defensive stories less sticky. Cultural factors color attachment behavior too. In collectivist societies, the line between dependency and loyalty blurs because communal support is a norm. Anxious protest may appear as filial piety, while avoidant withdrawal might be discouraged as disrespectful. Recognizing these cultural overlays prevents pathologizing differences that are socially adaptive. Technology, again, acts as amplifier. Read receipts and typing bubbles provide real-time data for anxious minds to catastrophize. Avoidant partners may mute notifications to escape overwhelm, inadvertently feeding the anxiety loop. Setting digital boundaries, such as agreed response windows or quiet hours, can protect both nervous systems. Physical environment shapes attachment expression. Small living spaces may intensify conflict by limiting retreat zones. Couples can create micro-boundaries, a reading corner with headphones, a walk around the block during tension to prevent escalation. Meanwhile, shared rituals like preparing dinner or evening stretches promote safe contact. At this depth of the river, the waters appear calm, yet currents swirl beneath. The task is not to dismantle attachment instincts, but to harness them wisely. Secure impulses remind us to reach. Anxious signals remind us to clarify. Avoidant leanings remind us to breathe and honor individuality. When partners view these instincts as complementary rather than antagonistic, they build a vessel sturdy enough to navigate storms. With psychological undercurrents charted, the flow turns toward the practical artistry of sustaining devotion, where patience steps from ideal to daily posture and simple rituals protect the heart's slow bloom. When lovers first share a kitchen, they discover intimacy in the smallest gestures: the angle of a mug handle, the soundtrack of sizzling garlic, the way silence settles at breakfast. Researchers at the Gottman Institute call these micro-moments bids for connection. Each question about coffee strength or grocery lists is a subtle request. Will you turn toward me? Couples who notice and respond to bids build a hidden reservoir of goodwill that cushions later storms. One powerful yet simple ritual is the 6-second kiss. Long enough to feel intentional, yet brief enough to fit a busy morning. Holding lips together for that span triggers oxytocin release and slows the heart. Another is the nightly gratitude swap, each partner recalling one specific kindness from the day. This practice redirected attention toward what is working, rewiring neural pathways away from fault-finding. Shared novelty also fuels devotion. When partners tackle new activities, such as paddleboarding or learning Spanish, the brain produces dopamine similar to early courtship. Novelty does not require expensive trips. Placing the mattress on the living room floor for a movie campout can jolt routine into play. The essence is stepping outside the comfort zone together, reminding the nervous system that adventure still lives within the bond. Conflict, however, is inevitable. The aim is not perfect harmony, but repair. Couples who master repair moves, a gentle hand on an arm, a sincere apology, or humor that does not belittle, recover physiological baseline faster than those who let hurt linger. Timing matters. Trying to solve issues when cortisol surges only deepens trenches. Agreeing on a pause word, perhaps lighthouse or reset, signals both partners to breathe, hydrate, and reconvene when calm returns. Household logistics can become hidden battlegrounds. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild coined the term emotional labor for the invisible task of managing feelings and social calendars. Equitable division of chores respects that tracking dentist appointments is as taxing as washing dishes. Some couples hold Sunday planning sessions, mapping childcare, finances, and personal goals on a shared digital board. Transparency reduces resentment born from unspoken assumptions. Sexual intimacy evolves too. Early fire may cool as schedules tighten, yet desire can be rekindled through mindful touch without the expectation of intercourse. Sensate focus exercises, developed by Masters and Johnson, invite partners to explore non-genital zones with curiosity. Removing performance pressure allows nervous systems to relax, setting the stage for organic arousal. Couples may also adopt the zero-pressure cuddle ritual before sleep, bodies aligned in gratitude rather than goal. Forgiveness acts like emotional composting, breaking down past hurts into nutrients for future growth. Psychologist Everett Worthington outlines the REACH method: recall, empathize, altruistic gift, commit, hold. Partners first recall the event with honesty, empathize with each other's pain, grant forgiveness as a gift, commit verbally, and hold the decision when rumination tries to reopen wounds. Forgiveness is not the same as forgetting or permitting abuse. It is clearing debris so new trust can sprout. Individual renewal keeps partnership vibrant. Time alone refuels identity, preventing fusion into one bland unit. Solo walks, art classes, or meditation retreats give fresh stories to bring back to the shared table. The healthiest couples cheer each other's personal horizons, seeing growth as additive rather than threatening. Rituals must adapt to seasons. When newborn care hijacks nights, partners can replace long dinner conversations with 5-minute check-ins during diaper changes. Ailing parents may shrink travel plans, yet reading poetry aloud in the hospital waiting room can carve space for tenderness. Flexibility is ritual's secret ingredient, allowing form to bend while purpose endures. Researchers tracking couples over decades find that humor predicts satisfaction above socioeconomic status. Playful, teasing, silly dances in the hallway, inside jokes about eccentric neighbours, lightens tension and fosters resilience. Laughter coaxes both sympathetic and parasympathetic systems into cooperative rhythm, a biological duet. Some couples renew vows privately each year, not as a public spectacle but as a fireside whisper, "I choose you again." Writing fresh vows reveals evolving priorities, maybe promising patience in career transitions or gentleness during hormonal swings. This practice honors love's living nature, acknowledging that yesterday's promises may need new language today. Domestic space influences emotional climate. Clearing clutter can reduce cognitive load and conflict. Designating a calm corner with plants and soft lighting invites de-escalation during arguments. Environmental psychology shows that a single live plant can lower blood pressure, demonstrating that external order nurtures internal peace. Money remains one of the top conflict triggers. Financial intimacy begins with open books, each partner viewing income, debt, and spending patterns. Budget dates, complete with snacks and music, replace fear with teamwork. Framing goals in shared language, "We are saving for freedom to travel," shifts focus from sacrifice to collective vision. Spirituality, whether religious or secular, can anchor routine. Lighting a candle before dinner, reciting an affirmation, or offering silent gratitude encodes meaning into the mundane. These acts remind lovers that partnership participates in something larger than two egos, be it nature, community, or silent wonder. With daily alchemy established, the narrative widens to storms that test the roots of devotion, where heartbreak and loss can prune yet also fertilize the relationship. Real love eventually meets real weather, job losses, miscarriages, chronic illness, sudden grief. These events feel like lightning striking the shared tree. Branches snap, bark blackens, and partners may wonder if the trunk itself will crack. Yet arborists know that a tree struck by lightning can sprout stronger rings if its core remains intact. Likewise, adversity, while painful, can widen capacity for empathy and depth. Consider bereavement. When one partner loses a parent, the surviving couple faces secondary grief, the partner mourning the changed energy of the beloved. Healthy response begins with presence rather than problem solving. Sitting together on the floor, silent hand on shoulder, communicates, "I will share this weight." Neurobiologically, co-regulating touch lowers cortisol waves that otherwise block verbal communication. Crisis also exposes fault lines. A caregiver role can flip previous dynamics, the formerly independent partner relying on the other for baths or injections. Couples therapists encourage naming the new roles out loud. "I miss being your equal in chores," so that resentment does not ferment. Rotating tasks and hiring outside help when possible keeps identity from collapsing into patient and nurse. Financial storms demand transparent numbers and emotional literacy. Losing a job can trigger shame that masquerades as irritability. The employed partner may feel pressure to provide while fearing burnout. Weekly budget huddles create concrete action plans, but equal time should be allotted to emotional check-ins. Phrases like, "I feel smaller without my salary," or "I worry you will resent me," invite compassion instead of assumptions. Some storms originate inside the relationship. Infidelity often lands like a tornado, random objects embedded in walls, memories twisted sideways. Healing begins with full disclosure, remorse expressed without defensiveness, and a joint map for rebuilding. Research by Peggy Vaughan shows that couples who engage in structured disclosure and counseling can reach post-betrayal closeness stronger than before, though only when the offending partner accepts accountability and the injured partner commits to a gradual trust experiment. Psychiatrist Judith Herman observes that trauma fragments chronology. Storytelling, therefore, becomes medicine. Partners recovering from crisis benefit from crafting a shared narrative. They might say, "We were hit by a storm we did not foresee. We took refuge. We rebuilt," rather than, "You ruined everything," or "I failed you." Narrative coherence integrates scattered memories, allowing the relationship to resume forward motion. Hope alone does not mend. Concrete rituals anchor recovery. Lighting a candle each evening during chemotherapy sessions turns dread into a sacred countdown. Planting a tree on the anniversary of a miscarriage channels grief into living roots. Scheduling quarterly State of the Union retreats, even if only at a local motel, signals that tending the bond remains priority. Community matters. Couples who weather storms in isolation risk collapse under combined stress. Reaching out to friends, faith groups, or online forums transforms private pain into communal healing. Stories of others who survived similar tempests provide both blueprint and emotional antivenom. Storms also teach seasonal wisdom. After caring for a dementia-stricken parent, some partners vow to cherish lucidity, instituting device-free breakfasts to save a conversation. Survivors of natural disasters often adopt minimalism, finding freedom in shared experience rather than possessions. Crisis clarifies values, pruning distractions so core branches can flourish. Resilience research cites 3 traits that predict recovery: realistic optimism, flexible thinking, and shared meaning. Realistic optimism acknowledges the wound while expecting progress. Flexible thinking experiments with new patterns when old ones fail. Shared meaning frames hardship as a chapter, not the whole book. Spiritual traditions echo this triad. In Jewish thought, the concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world, invites turning personal suffering into compassionate action. Buddhist teachings on impermanence encourage accepting change while cultivating loving kindness. Indigenous ceremonies often emphasize cyclical renewal, winter giving way to spring. Once the storm passes, partners may notice scar tissue, a childless household, a lower income bracket, a changed body. Rather than longing for the pre-storm landscape, they can practice appreciative revision, naming ways the new terrain supports deeper roots, quieter evenings, gentler expectations. Poet David Whyte writes that tragedy breaks the heart open rather than apart. The opening allows life to flow where it could not before. Finally, couples can celebrate survival with a rite of endurance. Some design tattoos of intertwined trees, others compose a joint playlist titled "We Stayed." These symbols turn private victory into visible reminder when future clouds gather. Thus, the river of love, having met thunder, bends toward wider calm. The water carries minerals from eroded cliffs, enriching downstream soil. Lovers who navigate storms together cultivate an inner climate of steadiness, understanding that seasons will continue to change, but the vessel they have strengthened can carry them forward. Love is not a fortress against weather. It is a craft that learns to sail through it, guided by patience, honest dialogue, resilient rituals, and the quiet belief that even fractured branches can bloom again. Love arrives as a spark, yet it grows as a practice. It invites us to map our inner landscape through the mirror of another soul, to travel from first tremor of attraction to seasoned devotion that stands with quiet strength in winter rain. Along the way, culture sings its stories, biology hums its rhythms, and our own choices lay each stepping stone. We learn that intimacy is both art and discipline, that patience is not passive but creative, that forgiveness turns broken earth into fertile ground. We discover that storms do not end the journey. They deepen the riverbed so future waters can flow wide and clear. And we remember that the smallest rituals, a morning kiss, a shared laugh over dishes, stitch everyday life to cosmic wonder. Whatever chapter you find yourself in, may you meet it with curiosity. May you honor your own growth and the growth of those you love. And may you keep tending the slow bloom that turns human hearts toward light.